is like really a time capsule of the era of biopics in the late 90s rather than his actual life. Just pretending that Goldberg was wrestling in the 70s to up-and-comer Jesse Ventura.
Yeah.
Y'all remember the Montreal Screwjob? This movie sure doesn't.
The stuff they included has nothing to do with Jesse Ventura.
It looks like an SNL parody sketch of Jesse Ventura's life.
Schmosh!
Schmosh!
This is the WDW or WCW. What are we? I don't know. I just know one thing. The WWF never existed.
Yeah, that's us. I bet you're wondering how we got here. Phelan, ready to take a time-traveling ride back to the 70s, 60s?
Yeah, back to the early days of Nitro.
Yeah. Back when Jesse Ventura wrestled on Nitro. Up-and-comer Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, got to face his heroes, Chris Kanyon and Goldberg.
The most accurate biopic ever made. The Jesse Ventura Story. It's Jesse Ventura Story, the movie, according to the DVD.
Jesse Ventura, the movie, the game.
Yeah.
Meet the Reform Party's new Jesse Ventura action figure. Make Jesse governor and make him do what's right for Minnesota.
I guess if there's anyone out here who is not familiar with Jesse Ventura, he's one of the most famous wrestlers ever, and he became the governor. And in 1999, when he became the governor, they decided to make this unauthorized movie about his life story.
But somehow they got everything accurate. No input from anyone.
Who is the target audience for this movie? That'd be like
people that don't know anything.
Because it's like, if you know just a smidgen of info about any of this, you know that it's horribly wrong. You know, a lot of biopics take creative liberties with stuff to create a more compelling narrative, but there's things in this that are just publicly known. Like, you knew what he looked like in Predator. You knew he didn't have the long blonde hair in Predator.
Yeah.
You knew that in the 70s, Nitro didn't exist. It's just like the basic things. And if you know anything deeper than surface level stuff, you know it's horrifically wrong.
There's stuff they included for absolutely no reason that has nothing to do with Jesse Ventura, but they're like, let's do a wildly inaccurate version of that does include him in the wrong company with the wrong wrestlers in the wrong town.
Yeah, the only reason you would include some of these things is like wrestling fans are familiar with it and they're like, oh, we gotta include that. But if they know what it is, they're like, what the fuck is this? Completely removed of any context or meaning of what it actually was in history.
This movie will have you questioning reality.
Did they really make this movie?
It's a conspiracy theory that Jesse Ventura is going on about now. Is it, that movie, did it come from a parallel world? Do-do-do-do.
It's Mandela effect. I thought his history was completely different than what it was, but this movie set me straight.
Where else but in America can a guy start out as a wrestler and end up a governor? How the hell did we get here?
It comes off like a parody of a biopic. Mm-hmm. Like all of the like tropes you expect in one of these events happen where people are like, hey, you know what you should do? This thing. Oh, yeah, I like this. Mm-hmm. You think I could really become a governor?
The stupid ghost of Jesse Ventura future visiting the past and them like tossing him like paper airplanes and stuff and other things he interacts with. He tries to murder a wrestler in the past.
I like to call it a ballet of violence.
Fatality.
That's one of the best things about this movie. The future governor ghost of Jesse Ventura haunting this entire film. This like framing device of him telling the story. But he keeps interacting with things in the story. They give him this like stage business, but it gets increasingly ridiculous as it goes along. He's like jumping out of the plane in Vietnam, handing out popcorn at wrestling events.
Well, it wasn't in Vietnam. He jumped into a parking lot apparently.
From Vietnam to a car park. That was the most sanitized TV-friendly version I've ever seen of Vietnam, the horrors of war, how the people that fought in Vietnam were treated when they were brought back. They just skim right over that, move on to like the complete tonal shifts that don't belong together. Everything goes from like 10 seconds to 10 seconds to 10 seconds of this, so you have no time to absorb anything until the very end when he's running for governor, and then the movie feels like it's just never gonna end.
It goes forever. Like, oh, maybe I should could become governor. But why? Because you're unqualified. That's why you're qualified. Right.
Yeah, what do I know about being a governor? Nothing, stupid. That's why you're gonna be the best.
Heard my hero, David Hasselhoff, telling me that.
What do I know about being a governor?
Nothing. That's what makes you so desirable.
They don't even make him look competent. They just keep playing inspirational, patriotic music in the background. I was surprised this came out in 99 and not like 2001 because they were really amping up the American nationalism in this. The American flag everywhere, which I feel like in the wrestling stuff was mostly to cover up the logos for Nitro, but it was just the same flag through the decades.
The American dream still rocks!
They weren't consistent with anything to do with the Nitro set. Sometimes they sort of redressed it. Other times there's like, look, WCW Nitro in the 70s or 80s, like, deal with it. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
It's shockingly lazy. They depict events in this film that are wildly out of place within the time period. It's hard to know what decade it's supposed to be until they tell you it's supposed to be. A large bulk of this is in the 70s when he was wrestling into the early 80s, but like they just show the wrestlers from Nitro like they are
NWO
now.
shirts.
Yeah, the people in the crowd are holding up Wolfpack NWO shirts. Yeah. The wrestlers are doing ladder matches. None of it's period appropriate. They don't even call them by like fake wrestlers names, like, oh, you have Goldberg in this, oh, you have Kanyon in this, oh, you have these people, but they're playing someone else fictionalized from that period. They just call them their names.
They could have done that. Like, it would have been a little lazy to, like, not try and make them look different at all, but yeah, that would have been a better idea than what they did, which is nothing.
Just pretending that Goldberg was wrestling in the 70s to up-and-comer Jesse Ventura?
Yeah, his first match ever was against Goldberg. Okay.
If that was true, he would have been injured immediately, because that's what Goldberg loved to do.
His first match was his last, what do you know?
Get a doctor! Get a doctor!
Apparently his last match was against Chris Kanyon, who was the world champion too. Huh?
Yeah.
All right. Kanyon was a good wrestler, but they never gave him the world title. They blatantly show WCW logos all the time. Yeah. They even show Ventura commentating, and his mic has a WCW/NWO logo on it. And then you see on Cheney's door, WDW.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell if it was a D or not. You're the one who's like, D. I'm like, I don't even see it.
It looks like a D more than anything.
Yeah, it's really kind of illegible. Like, it's like in alien language where it's not supposed to be anything.
It's kind of like they took the C and flipped it horizontally and then added another line there to sort of make it a D, sort of stylized like the logo.
Yeah, maybe they cut out the C and then flipped it, and then they Xeroxed that and then created the new logo that way.
It probably was. It's insane though, because they actually had banners and stuff made up of this WDW logo, and there's like a light up signs. They went to the effort to make all that, but then there's other times where you just see WCW Nitro set unaltered.
Yeah. Yeah, the very beginning when they start it, so they like start right away with like, this movie's gonna be complete horseshit.
Yeah, it's supposedly like one of his last matches. It was probably like 84 or 85.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, he's wrestling Kanyon on Nitro.
Yeah. That's how it was.
And then they just blatantly break kayfabe.
Yeah.
When Ventura passes out from a blood clot, I guess.
Yeah, he had a blood clot in
and
his
then
lungs.
He falls over, Kanyon pins him, and then they're like, oh, get help!
Yeah. They wouldn't be breaking kayfabe in 84 for this. He would have been playing the part. They were very, very serious about it in the 80s. I realize this is one of the least inaccurate things in the film, but it is like all of it. There was a part when he's a commentator, he gets knocked over, and then a referee comes over to count him out.
I couldn't comprehend that scene. He accidentally gets hit by a chair. Falls over, a ref comes, no one's pinning him, not that they would because he's not in the match, but a ref comes and counts 3 on him laying on the ground. What sense does this make at all? Even if he was an actual competitor, no one's pinning him.
It's the confusion on your face. You're like, why did that happen?
Lighten up, it's only wrestling.
None of this is accurate. We got to talk about the most famous scene from this film. We're dancing around it. We got to get to it. Give the people what they want.
Which is Ventura wrestling Kanyon. And then he goes, how'd I get there? Well, they know.
So, y'all remember the Montreal Screwjob? This movie sure doesn't.
It happened in L.A.
It happened in L.A. because it was famously in L.A., the Montreal Screwjob.
They want me to give it up tonight. Here in L.A., my own hometown.
And we all know that evil mastermind behind it, Cheney, who ran either WCW or WDW.
Yeah, depending on how lazy they were in the show. Yeah. We start things out. He's a commentator by this point, and he's like, what do you think? Should I wear this or should I wear the cheese hat? Oh, of course I'm wearing the cheese hat.
I cannot believe I am about to do this. See? That is terrific!
This is not anywhere around the time he was doing commentating, wearing his cheese hats,
and
any of this.
Old Bert Nart is like, well, this is my last match ever. I'm leaving the beloved WDW. Like, oh, I love you, Bert Nart. I'm going to argue with Mr. Cheney that this should be a schmoz.
Yeah, and then they're hanging out with their best friend Raven, who would never betray them for anything.
Famously, Bert Nart and Raven had this fight backstage where Bert Nart ripped out some of Raven's hair.
They got this new guy, Raven. They want to give him a good push.
No way in hell does Raven go down tonight. I'm building this kid.
They do the match, and then they do the screw job, and then, like, Cheney is just like, ring the damn bell!
Yeah, ring the damn bell!
And they portray Bert Nart or whatever, and then they have this close-up of Jesse Ventura in the cheese hat slowed down badly.
He looks clueless, too.
Oh, Raven, why?
I love that in this universe, for some reason, Jesse Ventura was highly involved in it. Like, he's the one who proposed that it just ends with a breakdown, like, fight, a DQ finish. He relays it to him, too, during the match. He's like, schmosh!
Schmosh! Has Jesse Ventura even said anything about the Montreal Screwjob, much less been involved in any capacity?
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever said much about it. I haven't heard. I mean, pretty much anyone's had some opinion, so he's probably said something, but...
He's like, oh, that's something anyway, buy my action figure. But apparently he was deeply, deeply involved with this, to the point where he was so betrayed, he chases down Cheney in the hallway as he's like, whoop, 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 running away to the Benny Hill music, basically. Power walks down the hall into his sad little office as he's like trying to pound down the door.
Cheney, I don't know, he's like calling police or something. I don't know, he's like immediately on the phone. He kind of like looks up at him like, huh, yes, as he's breaking down the door to kill him.
They seem to imply he murdered him.
Yeah, because the screen goes red like a GoldenEye kill. It's like,
We don't go back to this, so they don't clarify he didn't murder him.
Yeah, we never see Cheney again.
It kind of seems like he murdered him.
He killed Cheney.
He killed Cheney for that schmaz.
And then he drove home and yelled to the sky he quit.
Yeah, I quit! That's why he quit wrestling, of course.
Quit! Quit! What? Quit!
If anyone was watching this and didn't know what the Montreal Screwjob was, would they know what the fuck was going on or why?
No, you only have context for this, because like Raven even puts the sharpshooter on knockoff Bret Hart there to end the match.
Maybe if Jesse Ventura had been involved in that and then they didn't want to pay for likeness or names of other people and they substituted him, it would still be crappy. But the fact that they shove that in there, and if you know what it is, you're like, why is this in here? There's no relation to Jesse Ventura, there's no context.
It's just like that was wrong. Kind of a hot topic, because I think Wrestling with Shadows had finally come out, so it's probably why people were talking about it a little bit at the time. So they're like, we'll shove it in here. Even though it has nothing to do with Jesse Ventura. It's very stupid.
That should have been where it ended, though. It should have been he busted the door down and then it fades to red and then credits, because it's just downhill from there. That's the best the movie, it's the heights this movie reaches. Like, ultimate bullshit, what the fuck is happening?
I do love that that directly led to Predator, apparently. So we went from 1997
to filming
Predator in
like,
the 80s.
I quit wrestling because of the Montreal Screwjob in LA, and then I went to do acting, and I did Predator with my long blonde hair.
I quit Arnold, call me!
Hey, Jesse, the explosions are ready.
Coming, Arnie.
What is the timeline? What decade is it? When? And they keep acting like wrestling is set up, so therefore no one ever gets
They
hurt.
make a big point because they show them calling moves, and then they even have a part where Jesse Ventura's ghost from the future is going on about, like, you think that hurts? It doesn't.
Painful? Don't worry, it wasn't.
In some parts of the movie, they act like it's serious, because he gets injured at one point. There's a guy he accidentally injured.
No, Kanyon does it in the movie.
I thought Jesse
Kanyon
Ventura was
in, like,
supposed
possibly his third gimmick. Maybe he's still Kanyon, I don't
He's
know.
playing like 2 or 3 different characters.
Yeah,
in
because he's
this.
Kanyon. He also plays Porteous, which is his Mortal Kombat villain character, where he fought against Glacier, the Sub-Zero guy.
Right, that was also in the 70s.
Yeah, and that was in the 70s, of course. Back when Mortal Kombat was at its most popular.
Yeah.
And then he's like dressed up in some yellow gear and stuff during this injury where he's doing a pile driver off Brett's rope. To the OSW reference. I mean, Bert's rope.
Pile driver from Brett's rope hurt him pretty bad.
Oh my god.
It's a bit shit, isn't it?
It's not great.
What was happening at one point in the movie where they just smash cut to his wife giving birth and you're like, what the fuck was the tone? So then it was like,
They're saying, like, it's twins. It's Kanyon and Goldberg.
They both come out, and then he's like, "It's supposed to be a schmoz, guys."
He's got the cheese hat on.
Wait, there's another one. A wrestling contract.
Pain is good. Extreme pain is extremely good. Come on.
Get this guy out of here.
We're talking about, too, there's interesting things they could have talked about if they tried to do anything somewhat accurately,
Yeah.
but some of this would have to include Vince, probably, unless they did it with stupid Cheney, but, like, where Ventura wanted to form a union, and then Tattletale Logan told him, he's like, oh no, help! He ran to Vince.
A union, no!
You're saying, like, and then it cuts to Jay Leno in the closet overhearing him.
Just like a snake eating itself.
Yeah.
Of little tattletales listening.
One of the best scenes in another highly accurate biopic, Late Night Wars.
Where an actor wears Jay Leno's face. He skinned him like Leatherface. We're getting too deep in references. We just keep going until, like, they're like, they were talking about a Jesse Ventura biopic at some point.
I mean, we might as well, because that's kind of what this movie does. Just goes into nothing.
Large pepperoni cheese and mushroom for Jesse Ventura.
Keep the change.
Thank you.
Every time the fucking ghost future of himself showed up to be like, yeah, this was going on, it was like, what? Why are you doing this?
You can stop.
Nils Allen Stewart played Jesse Ventura in this. He is most known as a stunt guy. He plays beefy guys. He's been in over 100 things, not just stunts. He does bit parts, but this is the biggest part that he's ever had. And he was making the most out of it. Because I enjoyed his performance, as inaccurate as it was. He was having a good time. I don't think his acting was terrible either. The script was terrible, but I don't think he was terrible in it.
Some of the wigs weren't good either.
Yeah.
When he was in the 80s.
It looked like an SNL parody sketch of Jesse Ventura's life, but he was making the most out of it, and I think he enjoyed the role because he did the role later again in like Ass Clowns or something.
Why wouldn't he reprise it for Ass Clowns?
I mean, if Ass Clowns calls, you answer. In 2021, he was in Ass Clowns Constipated as Jesse Ventura, which got a 5.9, which I think was higher than this movie. What did this one get? A 3.8, yeah. Ass Clowns Constipated.
Directed by Chris Jericho.
And every one of you ass clowns knows it!
But good for that guy, you know? He's like, if anyone's gonna play Jesse Ventura, I think they got the right guy. Because he looked close enough to Jesse Ventura if you're gonna play a big dumb wrestler.
I'm Governor Jesse Ventura.
I come from the world of pro wrestling, and I've never seen any 6-foot-tall, walking on 2 legs lizard.
Except he was like, oh, they thought I was dumb. Well, I'll show them as I sing songs about myself and do action figure commercials.
They keep acting like he's gonna build up to saying something smart, and then he doesn't.
Yeah, he basically just goes like, rock and roll, and he does the fun rock and roll. That's how you do rock and roll. Bill.
I believe that Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones are two of the greatest rock bands ever!
There's one part where it's like he's in a debate and then he daydreams about wrestling. And then he comes back. Oh, what's he gonna do?
Yeah.
He's like, what if I did nothing? And be like, yeah!
They run out of ideas at that point.
There are certain problems government cannot fix and should not try to fix. I'd like my legacy to be that people did not know the government was there.
They're like, once we get past the wrestling thing, we don't know what to do, so he's just gonna daydream about wrestling, I guess, because we don't have really a lot about his actual governorship, because this came out when he was elected governor, so they had to rush this through pretty quick.
He became the governor. Make that movie!
Get writing!
Hey, WCW, can we run in after or before Nitro whenever they did these?
They got it done faster than that Unabomber movie that was released before the trial was done.
You guys will never beat me, you losers!
It sure would be great if life was like this.
This is like really a time capsule of the era of biopics in the late 90s rather than a time capsule of his actual life that's wildly inaccurate. They had so many terrible rushed movies like this because they were like, this is in the headlines, we gotta get this out. But I don't know if there's ever been one as inaccurate and not give a shit as this film.
It's amazing how bad this is. I love too, one of the guys he's running against for governor in the movie is the guy who used to do this peanut butter cup commercials where they're like UFOs. Like, well, that ties into Ventura. He's like, oh, is that real? Conspiracy theories with Jesse Ventura.
Oh, I did fight an alien in Predator, so I think so.
Reese peanut butter cups from space? Yes.
They called me a shock jock.
They called him a shock jock as he goes, thanks, it was all your pleasure.
You're the man, Jesse!
Yeah, thanks for calling, Steve. The pleasure's all yours.
Shock jock.
I'm sure they had to clean it up for TV, but I mean, how
they
shocking
didn't even
was it?
try, though. It's just like, I'm not going to answer questions about Vietnam. Can you tell me about Vietnam? No,
Yeah.
I was a shock jock.
Was that guy listening to anything he was saying?
Yeah.
So, Jesse, how many jumps did you make, man?
Yeah, thanks for calling. The pleasure's all yours. This is a spot on your dial where it all hits the fan.
I love the stuff with his dad, too, which led into him being like, oh, my dad didn't talk about his war stories, so I'm not going to, because I'm not bragging about that stuff. But his dad, through this movie, they do the stereotype of, like, he's not proud of him, but he was secretly proud of him the whole time. I just kept thinking of Walk Hard, when he's like, the wrong son, Dad!
I got my first match under my belt.
Well, I'm real happy for you, son. Now, maybe after a few more, you can come back and get a real job.
Wrong kid died, goddammit.
Remember, I don't believe in you, see ya! He should have said at the end when his ghost is waving him off, waving the two of them off into the ghost. Whatever the fuck was happening there.
I love they have these bits that would seem like they're supposed to lead to something and don't, because at one point the dad's like, you don't say that cheating is the American way, whether you're a heel or not. And he's like, huh. And then never comes up again. And there's the point where they bring their daughter home from the hospital after she's been born. You see the son there, like, mad at the door and closes it. It's like, oh, what's that son gonna do? Nothing.
The reason that was in the movie is because it's all part of the rich tapestry that is his life.
Because his son grew up to become Cheney and did the LA Screwjob.
Oh my god! It's all connected. And then Goldberg showed up again as arch nemesis. He did flash back to Goldberg at some point.
Yeah, he did. Remember the good days with Goldberg. Right, Bert and Art.
Bring it to the body! Bring it to the body. Woo!
Jesse's the body!
Oh, this is just silly.
What else happened in this movie? I feel like we're missing some important things that happened. I like when he got married to his wife at 24, and he looked the same age. And then, of course, she didn't age through the whole movie.
She never aged. Like, her kid's about the same age as her by the end of it.
His parents, like, aged very slowly. Because near the end, they're starting to look older. But there was, like, a part where he's looking the same as when he's, like, 24. And then his dad is just kind of gray on the sides. Like, this has been, like, a decade difference between when he last saw him or something.
Yeah.
Who's this Ventura guy?
It's me, Dad. It's my new name. I just need something more like a badass.
He's a badass now.
I like when in the 60s when he's watching boxing, this is before he's decided to become a wrestler, and he's sitting there with his brother, and he's supposed to be like school age at this point. I think the actor was believably school age because they actually had a different actor for that part.
I wish it was the same guy.
Oh, come on, Mom. Like wearing like a backwards baseball hat or something.
I reckon it's time for Dewey Cox to move on.
You're only 14. I'm Dewey's 12-year-old girlfriend.
I like, too, they try to, like, make him look beefier as the governor, even though they already have a fairly beefy actor.
Yeah, it looks like he's wearing his dad's suit jacket.
But during the kids segments, I don't know how old his brother was supposed to be at that point. I don't think he'd gone to the Navy SEALs yet. I think he was supposed to also be school age, but I didn't believe that the brother
I thought it was his
young
dad
enough.
first.
It's like, oh, you boys.
I'm so pretty.
Yeah, you want to see who I punch?
I'm the greatest of all time.
What else about this movie? Anything else?
That's it. Once he finally is running for governor, they have this stupid thing where, I don't know, he's with some guy who was trying to run first and failed, but then he's convincing Ventura to run, and he's chopping wood, and he's like, hey, you don't know anything about this, and that's why you've got to run.
I love that guy. He's doing the narration on his action figure commercial. That was a real commercial that they did, but it wasn't like a handheld home camera where it was his friend narrating over it. It looked a little better than that. They somehow made it worse than it was. I love the part where they pull up on a motorcycle together as if they always just take motorcycle rides.
They're just watching one of the guys making a speech at a rally.
How do we get on the poles? I don't know. We gotta have a plan. They drive off into the sunset together. Like, what were they doing?
They're just driving by every rally. People are having...
holding onto his waist like, yeah.
I just wanted when he's riding off on the motorcycle, he hits himself. It turns into that Brad Pitt episode of Freddy's Nightmares.
What the fuck was this about? I don't know, dreams or something.
You figure it out, I didn't.
Well, they're talking about Freddy's Nightmares. I think
we've gone too far.
Too far. If we're getting into Freddy's Nightmares, we're really sad, I think.
Ventura's Nightmares.
Done, yeah.
I'm the one who brought the NFL back to Minnesota!
Would you recommend this movie to anyone?
Yeah, it's pretty funny, though. The political part can get a little long.
Yeah. Well, when he meets himself and then he, like...
When he meets himself.
And it becomes like a church or something for no reason. I don't know why that happened, but it made you laugh once more before the end. But there was a part where I'm like...
Yeah. It's so weird because it's supposed to be like, big flamboyant colors like his wrestling persona and all that. But it just looks like a church. Like he turned into a church.
He began the cult of Ventura. It makes sense to me. As much sense as anything.
That's the only sense I can get out of that.
Yeah, I recommend this movie if you lack
horrible
taste,
biopics.
Yeah. No, if you like horrible biopics, if you're a wrestling fan, if you want a good laugh, it's entertaining. Try and find a DVD, but it was pretty hard to get the copy we had, wasn't it?
Yeah, it seems like it's a little obscure.
You can find it.
Yeah,
you know. But we recommend it. I speak for both of us.
Inaccurate.
All right, we'll end it with a schmoz.
Ding, 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 ding. Ring the damn bell!
Ring the damn bell!
Ow! Right in the
Schmoz.
Ring the damn bell!
This is the WDW or WCW. What are we? I don't know. I just know one thing. The WWF never existed. Oh yeah, he also commentated with Gorilla Monsoon in WCW/WDW. That happened.
Maybe I ought to run for something.
Is Mookie barking? Ow.
Yes.
Mookie!
Ah!
You gonna like this? Hold for Mookie. Nils Owen Stewart.
W.
Thanks for the Liberty Bell, guys. I'll bring it right back.
Sure thing, Governor Ventura. Thanks a lot.
The pleasure's all yours.